Hey guys, tonight we begin with something most people never talk about. A crucifixion you've heard 100 times, but never like this. Because while the crowd shouted and the sky turned black, two archangels were watching. Not from a distance, but from just beyond the veil. Michael, the warrior of heaven. Uriel, the keeper of divine mysteries. And what they did, what they saw, what they guarded in silence, changed the spirit world forever. So, before you get too cozy, take a second to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy this strange little corner of quiet storytelling. And drop a comment with where you're listening from and what time it is for you. It's strangely comforting to know who else is drifting off with us around the world. Now get comfortable, let the day melt away, and we'll drift back together into the quiet corners of the past. It's quiet, but not the peaceful kind. The kind of quiet that feels like it's leaning over you, watching, waiting. You wake up on a dusty road just outside Jerusalem, the air dry and still, with the taste of something metal in your mouth, like you've bitten your tongue in a dream you don't remember. Around you the city is humming, but not like it usually does. There's no market noise, no laughter, just feet moving and voices too low for joy. Your feet move without asking. You follow the crowd. Sandaled feet on cracked stone. Some are crying, most are not. Faces tight, eyes pinned forward, as if whatever they're walking toward has already decided what it's going to do. You don't know why you're walking, but stopping feels impossible, like gravity has changed directions and now pulls uphill. The hill is called Golgotha. Someone near you whispers it like a curse. You don't ask what it means. You already know. Somehow, it means something final, something that ends people. At first glance, it's just a mound of rock, but the closer you get, the more it doesn't feel like earth anymore. It feels ancient, like it's been watching everything since before the sun knew how to rise. The stone under your feet is cracked and pitted like old teeth. You pass a woman collapsed on her knees. She's wailing, but no one stops. People keep climbing. The air gets heavier the higher you go, like breathing through oil. Then you see them. 3 crosses, planted like crooked trees, their roots buried in blood, the 2 on either side grown, their branches hung with dying men. But it's the one in the middle that makes your chest lock. He's not groaning, not fighting, just hanging, still, except for his eyes, which are open, watching the sky, like it's about to say something important. You don't know his name, but everything in you says you should. His body is a ruin, torn, pierced, bruised, like fruit dropped from a great height. But his silence is the loudest thing on this hill. It presses into your temples like a ringing you can't hear, but can't stop feeling. The soldiers are laughing. One throws dice, another spits. You expect the man in the middle to cry out, to plead. But he just breathes, shallow, steady, and looks up. So you look up too. And something shifts. The clouds aren't clouds. They don't move like clouds. They don't drift. They loom, still and watching. 2 shapes, massive, bright, but somehow darker than the sky, hover above the hill. You don't see wings. You feel them, like pressure behind your eyes. One glows like the surface of a furnace, his face a blur of light. The other stands like a blade unsheathed, his form outlined in something that feels older than thunder. No one else looks up. No one else sees. But you do. They aren't moving. They're waiting. And the sky, which should be blue, is the color of bruises. You feel it, suddenly and clearly. This moment has been rehearsed 1,000 times in a place beyond time. And now it's happening. The wind refuses to blow. The sun pulls its light away like it's ashamed to see what comes next. And the man on the cross, the center of it all, finally blinks. Once, slowly. He knows you're here, He's known you longer than you've known yourself. The crowd begins to shout, but you don't hear them. All you hear is your own heartbeat. Because now, you remember, this isn't the beginning. It's the unraveling. The shouting is louder now, but not sharp. Dull like stones dropped into a dry well, the kind of noise that doesn't echo, just sinks. You push through the bodies, sweaty, tense, bent forward, like they're trying not to feel what they're feeling. Sand grits between your teeth. The heat has changed. Not hotter, just heavier, like something pressing down from above, slowly, with intent. You reach the ridge. The wind has vanished. No breeze, no birds. Even the flies hold still. 3 crosses, tall and splintered, throw shadows that shouldn't exist, longer than the sun allows. On the left and right, men writhe, cursing, pleading, dying badly. But it's the man in the middle that your eyes can't leave. He's not struggling. He's still, not limp, not lifeless, but utterly still, in a way that feels deliberate, controlled. His body is a wound. Strips of flesh hang like ribbons. His hands have been nailed, but they're open. Palms not clenched in pain, just turned outward, like he's offering something invisible to no one in particular. The crown on his head isn't gold. It's thorns, long and wicked, jammed into his scalp with careless hands. Blood runs down into his eyes, but he doesn't blink. He just stares. Not at the crowd, not at the sky, somewhere in between. Around him, mockery drips from mouths like spoiled wine. He saved others. Someone sneers. Let him save himself. Another soldier laughs and holds up a sponge soaked in vinegar, pressing it toward cracked lips. The man turns his head slightly, not away from pain, but toward it. Like he expected it. Like he knew this would come. A priest in spotless robes stands near the front, arms crossed like he's watching a play that offends his taste. You half expect him to object to the execution on aesthetic grounds, but he just scowls and mutters scripture under his breath like a spell that no longer works. Children ask questions. Their mothers hush them, not out of reverence, but because they don't have answers. The cross creaks, wood flexing under weight. The man's feet are nailed together, twisted at an unnatural angle. A raw moan bubbles in his throat, but it isn't pain, it's grief. As if he's mourning something no one else knows has died yet. And then the silence stretches again, long and taut like a wire across the sky. His mouth is open, but he doesn't speak. His chest rises, shallow and slow, but he's not out of breath. He's waiting. You don't know how you know this, but you do. He's listening. Not to the crowd, not to the priests, not even to the cries of the men beside him. He's listening to something above this world, behind it, something you can't hear, but he can. His head tilts slightly, like he's straining to catch a whisper between realms. Time stutters. The soldier beside him blinks twice in rapid succession, then turns away, suddenly unsure of why he's laughing. You try to speak, but the words die in your mouth. It's like trying to talk during an earthquake. He sees you, though, not your face, but you, all of you, the parts no one else touches. His lips part, but he says nothing, because right now, words would ruin it. He's not here to explain. He's here to endure, and the silence around him is the loudest sermon this hill has ever heard. It begins with the birds, or rather, the moment you notice their absence. No wing beats overhead, no scattered chirps echoing from olive branches or rooftop eaves. The air is still, and not in a peaceful way, still like a glass of water someone's afraid to touch. You scan the sky without knowing why. Nothing stirs, not a wing, not a feather. Just a dome of blue that doesn't quite look like sky anymore. A donkey a few feet behind you stops chewing. Its ears flick once, then freeze. Its eyes dart left, then upward. Something in its animal brain understands what yours doesn't yet. You turn around, slowly, not because you want to see, but because something you don't believe in just tapped your shoulder. The animals are silent. Dogs curled under carts have stopped panting. A goat tethered to a post lowers its head and doesn't lift it again. Chickens press into corners like the ground has started whispering. And the insects, gone. No buzz, no hum, not even the slow drag of a beetle across stone. Nothing is moving except the breath in your throat, and even that feels out of place. You swallow. The sound feels too loud. People don't notice it first. They're too busy yelling, throwing words like stones at the man nailed to the wood. But it's as if the world around them has moved a step to the side. Something shifted, not in volume, but in presence. Like standing in a room where someone important just walked in, but hasn't said a word. Above, the clouds have stopped. Not drifting, not rolling, just hanging, swollen and thick, as though bloated with something they can't release. You try to track their movement and realize there is none. The edges are too sharp, the curves too still, like someone painted them and forgot to finish the sky. The light shifts, but the sun hasn't moved. Shadows stretch longer than they should, sliding beneath cloaks and sandals like they're looking for places to hide. The warmth drains not into cold, but into weight. Every breath feels like lifting a stone inside your chest. You hear it now, not a sound, but the lack of one. No wind, no rustle, no coughs from the crowd. Even the dying men have fallen quiet, their moans swallowed by the hush that isn't silence but something deeper, deader, like the world is standing on tiptoe, listening. A child starts to cry. Just once. The mother picks him up before the sound can finish, clutching him too tightly, eyes wide with a fear she won't name. The man on the middle cross exhales, slowly, and it rolls over the hill, like mist, from somewhere much older than this city. His chest lifts again, shallow, steady, like he's sinking his breath to something massive and unseen. The sky groans. Not with thunder, but with stillness. If a thought could have mass, this is what it would feel like pressing down on the world. Something is waiting. You don't know what, but you can feel it. In your teeth, in your blood, in the strange knowledge that the heavens aren't empty, they're just watching, and whatever's behind them is holding its breath. Noon arrives, but the light doesn't. The bells don't ring, the shadows don't shrink, and the warmth you expected never shows up. The sun should be above you, proud and cruel in the center of the sky, but it's gone. Not behind a cloud. Not hidden by mist. Just gone. As if it was never invented. As if something reached up and smothered it with one silent hand. People notice, but no one says anything at first. They just pause mid-step. Mouths part, eyes lift. Faces tilt to the heavens with the kind of slow, unsure curiosity reserved for storms that haven't quite introduced themselves. Someone mutters about an eclipse, but no one agrees. Eclipses don't feel like this. They don't press against your skin. They don't make your bones cold. The darkness is wrong. Not nighttime dark. Not even storm dark. It's thick, like ink spilled across the sky and left to clot. It doesn't dim things. It flattens them. Faces become outlines. Sandals blur into ground. The lines between living and dead seem thinner, somehow. Like the world is being erased, one brushstroke at a time. Then the panic starts. First, a woman gasps. Then a man calls for his son. A few feet away, someone drops their staff and runs, shoulders hunched like they're expecting the sky to split open and pour something down that isn't rain. Children cry. Mothers hush them with trembling hands. A Roman soldier grabs his spear tighter, but doesn't know where to point it. You look up, because something tells you not to, and you see it. There are shapes up there. Not birds, not smoke. They're too slow, too big. Shadows moving where clouds should be, but without edges. Not gliding, not rolling, just shifting. Like a body too large to fit inside your mind is pressing against the fabric of the sky from the other side. They don't block the sun. They've swallowed it, and they're still hungry. One of the dying men whimpers, not the one in the middle. One of the others. His voice cracks, soft and high like a child in the dark. "What is this?" he breathes. No one answers him. No one knows how. The cross at the center creaks again. You glance back, and the man in the middle hasn't moved, not once. He's still watching the sky, like he expected it to break. Like this is exactly what he's been waiting for. He's not afraid, which makes you more afraid. The hill trembles beneath your feet, but there's no quake. Just the subtle roll of something vast shifting under the crust of things. The earth feels loose, untied. Above you, the shadows twitch. You realize they're not clouds. You realize they're wings. Not flapping, not flying, just suspended in the void like frozen fire. Their owners hidden, their shapes distorted by the weight of something you weren't made to see. People scream now, loud and chaotic. But the man in the middle cross just breathes. The blackness deepens. Not even fire burns in this kind of dark. And still, the sun does not return, because whatever is happening hasn't finished yet. You don't see them arrive. There's no wind, no flash, no trumpet song splitting the sky. One moment it's just blackness, thick and swallowing. The next, they're there, not falling, not flying, just existing, fixed in place like stars that finally decided to move closer. Michael stands to the left, Uriel to the right, not above the hill, but around it, framing it, holding it still, as if the world is a stone bowl, and they are the hands that refuse to let it tip. They aren't glowing, not the way people imagine, no warm halo, no gentle shimmer. Their light isn't for comfort. It's the kind that comes before a wildfire, or after a detonation. You try to blink it away, but it's not in your eyes. It's in your spine, in your lungs. A pressure that says you're standing in the place where consequences are carved. Michael is taller than you can measure, not just in size, but in weight. Not heavy, not solid. Weight, as in the gravity of something made before mass existed. His face is not a face, not really. Just the shape of something meant to wage wars humans aren't allowed to name. His sword is in his hand. It glows, dimly, with letters you don't recognize, etched so deep into the blade it looks like they've always been there. The blade doesn't glint, it breathes. Not metal, not fire. Something older. Uriel is stillness itself. He doesn't float. He hovers like a thought you can't shake. He's wrapped in a heat that doesn't burn skin but memory, the kind of warmth that makes your old wounds ache. His eyes aren't eyes. They're twin points of revelation. White hot and humming like coals beneath ancient stone. His robes ripple, even though the air is still. Not caught in wind, caught in truth. And the truth doesn't need to ask permission to move. They do not speak. They do not gesture. They do not blink. Because this is not their scene. This is not their battle. They're not here to act. They're here to wait, to witness, to guard something too sacred to touch, but too dangerous to leave unprotected. Their wings don't flap. They stretch outward. Not feathers, not flesh, but something that bends light and memory. When they move, if they move, it's not with sound. It's with silence so deep, it rewrites the noise around it. And they're not watching the crowd. They're watching him, the man on the middle cross. His head tilted low now, his chest shallow, his blood soaking the dirt, but his soul still awake, still sending out something you can't hear, but they can. They're listening to him, waiting for the next word, the next breath, the next signal. You realize then, they are not here to rescue. They are not here to destroy. They are standing exactly where they were told to stand, holding position like thunder, waiting to remember how to roar. And you are standing between them, in the space between judgment and mercy, between flame and light, between a dying king and a world that doesn't know it's being watched. You can't move. You don't dare breathe too loud, because the archangels are in place now, and nothing in heaven or on earth moves without purpose anymore. The soldier doesn't hesitate. He's done this before. Maybe not exactly like this, but enough times that his hands don't shake. He steps forward through the dry grass, crusted red with the day's work. He doesn't look at the man, not really. Just the ribs, just the wound opening and closing with each shallow breath. He lifts the spear, tilts it upward, finds the soft place between bone and silence, and pushes. The crack is almost polite, a wet, yielding sound. Not the sharp snap of flesh giving up, but something more intimate. A sigh through torn muscle, a curtain pulled back too fast. Blood flows, yes, but it's not the blood that makes the sky flinch. It's what's behind it. Because the moment the spear enters, everything else goes quiet. The wind that had started to stir, gone. The murmuring crowd chokes on its own noise. Even the thief to the left, who's been cursing God and Rome and his mother for hours, falls silent mid-blasphemy. The man in the center doesn't scream. He whispers. You don't hear the words. You're not supposed to. They weren't meant for ears. They're not even words. Not exactly. Just breath and blood arranged like a sentence no one's ever spoken aloud. But the air hears it. It changes. You feel it. Above his head, the sky pulls tighter, like something invisible is bracing. And then, something answers. Not in thunder. In reaction. Michael turns his head. Not much. Barely anything. But enough. Like a lion who's just scented a challenge he's not allowed to kill. His grip tightens on the hilt of his sword, and for the first time, you feel heat coming off him. Not flame, but friction. Restraint grinding against readiness. Uriel doesn't move. His eyes brighten. That's all. But the sky around him starts to shimmer like metal, too close to the fire. Like time itself is considering whether to hold. The soldier steps back, confused. He wipes the blood on his tunic like it's sweat. Like what just happened is ordinary. His mouth opens, probably to laugh, but no sound comes out. His throat works once, twice. He backs away, fast. He doesn't know why. He just knows he shouldn't be standing there anymore. Because something else is. Something bigger. Not seen, but sensed. Like walking into a room that was empty a second ago and now isn't. You feel watched. Not by eyes, by judgment. Not angry, but absolute. The thief on the right is crying now. His hands shake on the nails that hold him up. The tears cut streaks through the grime on his face. And you hear him say something soft, something desperate. Remember me. But the man in the center is already somewhere else. His eyes, though dimming, are still open. Not dazed, not fading, focused. Locked on something you can't see. Something that just shifted above his head when the blood hit the dust. He's still whispering. Still speaking to the thing beyond the veil. Not begging, not breaking, issuing something. Maybe a request. Maybe a command. And whatever it is, it matters. Because even the ground beneath your feet has begun to hum. Not loudly, but steadily. Like a warning. Because the spear wasn't the worst thing here. It was the signal. He hasn't moved. Not since he appeared. Uriel hovers just above the horizon, as if the sky itself is holding its breath to keep him from falling. But he wouldn't fall. He doesn't need the wind. Doesn't answer to gravity. His body isn't made of matter, not the way yours is. He's not shaped by breath or born from blood. He is light made obedient, flame made articulate. And still, he waits. You turn your gaze toward him, slowly, afraid it might undo you. That just looking will pull something ancient to the surface. And it does. It's not fear that rises. It's familiarity. Uriel doesn't see you the way the crowd does. He doesn't glance. He observes. He regards. His gaze isn't a glance. It's a recall. And when his eyes meet yours, they don't pierce. They remember. And that's when your chest begins to ache. Not with pain, with something worse. Recognition. Because looking into Uriel's eyes isn't like staring into the sun. It's like staring into a mirror you forgot existed. One that shows you not as you are now, but as you were before. You knew how to forget. You see things that don't belong to this day. Pieces of you from places your body has never walked. Faces without names. Languages without sound. Fire that doesn't burn, and light that has no source. His eyes glow like sunlight bleeding through stone. Soft, warm, impossible to reach, but real enough to warm your bones. They don't blink. They don't need to. Uriel doesn't watch time pass. He watches time unfold. He sees the end while standing in the middle. He sees the pattern while you're still stuck in the thread. And somehow, you know he's not looking at you in this moment. He's looking at all your moments at once. What you were, what you are, what you'll become when the veil is finally gone. You step back without meaning to, breath-catching, like you've been caught in something sacred and too large to explain. But he doesn't follow. He wouldn't. He doesn't chase. He reveals. Badin, you wonder what he sees in the man on the cross. And you realize he's not wondering at all. He's known since before the sky was sky. Uriel is the archangel of light, yes. But not the kind that glows in windows. Not warmth and comfort. His light is the kind that cracks open stone, that finds hidden places and forces them into honesty. His presence makes lies tremble. And on this hill, there are no lies left. When Jesus lifts his eyes, slowly, painfully, you feel the connection snap into place. Uriel doesn't nod. He doesn't speak. But something moves between them anyway. A recognition. An old agreement. You feel it in your chest. A sensation like a locked door coming undone, but too slowly to be relief. Uriel isn't here for the crowd. He isn't here for the spectacle. He's here for the moment. The moment the veil between worlds thins. The moment knowledge buried in shadow finds its way to light. The moment obedience becomes revelation. You don't understand it all. You're not meant to, but you understand enough to know this. Uriel is not a messenger. He is the message. And whatever he's guarding on this hill has already begun to unfold. He hasn't moved. Not once. Not since the sky went black. Not since the crowds began to turn restless. Not since the nails were hammered and the blood started to drip into the dust like a slow, steady clock. 3 hours now, and Michael remains exactly where he stood. Silent, enormous, unmoved. But stillness is not the same as absence. You feel him before you see him, not with your eyes, with something deeper. Like gravity beneath the skin, the pressure that wraps itself around your ribs, the sense that if you stood any closer, your body would forget how to hold itself together. He is not like Uriel. Uriel burns like hidden knowledge. Michael hums like the silence right before a battlefield ignites. There's no noise, but there's a vibration. It lives in the bones of the hill. It crackles beneath your heels, just under the surface of things. The air around him is thick, thicker than light, heavier than weather. It doesn't stir. It waits. Michael's eyes are fixed on the cross. Not on the people, not on the sky, not even on the demons curled just out of reach, slithering through dimensions like shadows under oil. Only the cross. Only the man in the middle. His sword is in his hand, but he doesn't raise it. He doesn't need to. The blade itself seems alive, etched with words that weren't written so much as breathed into being. Language you don't recognize, but your blood reacts anyway. Something in you bows without knowing why. And beneath the metal, beneath the armor that looks like it was forged in the center of a dying star, there is flame. Not fire. Flame. A presence that glows from within him like it's trying to remember what it feels like to erupt. His chest doesn't rise or fall. His wings don't twitch. He's a sculpture, made of fury, wrapped in patience, chained not by force, but by command. He could end this. With a blink. With a breath. He could tear open the sky and swallow Rome. But he doesn't, because he hasn't been told to. That's what terrifies you most. This isn't lack of power, it's obedience. And there's something far more dreadful about that, because it means the fury is aware, controlled, willing. You glance back at the cross. The man is still breathing, still bleeding, still whispering things no one hears. Except maybe Michael. Maybe that's what he's listening for. Not permission, not freedom. The signal. You wonder what would happen if the command came now. If that invisible word passed from bloodied lips into the space between dimensions. Would the ground rupture? Would the sword finally rise? Or would it be worse? Would he simply vanish? No light, no sound, just judgment rendered in silence. Michael hasn't blinked, not in 3 hours. And yet, you know he sees everything, every hidden word, every lie muttered under breath, every spirit that creeps too close. He doesn't need to fight them. His presence is enough. You feel your knees ache, not from standing, from reverence. He isn't here to comfort. He isn't here to teach. He is here to hold the line, guard the transfer, preserve the moment when a kingdom is torn from darkness and handed back to light. And if the word comes, just one word, he will move. But until then, he waits, sword in hand, flame under skin, and a stillness that says more than thunder ever could. It tears out of him, like something that had been waiting since the world was born. A sound, a cry, not the groan of flesh or the rattle of lungs collapsing. It's sharper than that, older, carved from something more eternal than pain. His mouth opens, and the air around the hill buckles. Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. Some in the crowd flinch, others sneer, mishearing it as desperation. One of the priests spits into the dirt and mutters something about blasphemy. A woman presses her hands to her mouth. A child starts crying, but the mother doesn't hush her this time. The crowd shifts like an animal unsettled by a noise it doesn't understand. You understand even less. It sounds like sorrow, like abandonment, like the moment before a bridge collapses. But there's more under it. Something threaded into the pitch of his voice, something not human, not just suffering, authority. You feel it before you register the meaning, the name, the weight behind it. Eli, my God. He's not asking a question. He's opening a door, not knocking, opening. And the sky responds. Not with thunder, not with wind. Something deeper. The pressure in your chest triples. The ground beneath you tightens. The darkness in the air begins to churn, quietly, like a whisper through iron. It's not rage. It's reverence. The kind of reverence only reserved for orders. Michael turns first. A flicker. Just enough to acknowledge what's happened. He doesn't move his sword, doesn't speak, but something in his form stiffens. The muscles along his shoulders bunch. His flame pulses once beneath the armor, as if the cry had found its target. Uriel glows brighter. Only slightly, but enough that the darkness around him recoils. His eyes, like fire behind glass, narrow, not in confusion, but in focus. Like he's listening to something the rest of the universe isn't allowed to hear. Because it wasn't just a scream. It was a signal. The kind that travels through more than air. The kind that parts realities. That moves across dimensions like a current through water. Heaven heard it, not as pain, but as command. You feel it in your marrow. That word wasn't meant for the people. It was meant for the ones standing in silence above them. And they heard it. They always hear him. The demons circling the fringes of the realm. The ones that had crept close, feeding off the blood, the chaos, the doubt. They scatter. Not flee. Scatter. Like ashes blown from a hand. No shriek, no farewell. Just gone. Because the cry didn't just name God. It reminded the darkness, who still holds the title. The king was calling, not collapsing. And everything in the air suddenly knew it. The veil over the temple has not yet torn, but you can feel it beginning to tremble. Like cloth straining against centuries of tension. Like a dam about to split. The cry still echoes. Not through your ears anymore, but through time. It doesn't fade. It anchors. Michael shifts his weight like a soldier awaiting the next order. Uriel blinks once, and the fire in his chest moves like the start of a sunrise. Jesus lowers his head, but he is not defeated. He is descending. And what the world mistook for a scream of despair was actually the password, the ignition, the summons, the cry that broke the realms. Something shifts, not loud, not sudden, but final. The kind of shift you feel in your spine before your mind knows what it means. Like the last click of a lock before a door swings open, or the breath a storm takes before it begins to speak. Michael blinks. Just once. And it is not the blink of boredom, or fatigue, or waiting grown long. It's a signal, a motion without sound, like steel acknowledging steel. His gaze, which has been fixed on the center cross, narrows, not in confusion, in confirmation. He heard it. You don't know how you know, but you know. So did Uriel. He doesn't move his body, just tilts his head, barely. The way a flame leans in wind, it doesn't fear. His eyes, molten and calm, flash white for the briefest moment, like lightning warming up its memory. Something invisible locks into place above the hill, not seen, but sensed, like the snapping shut of an unseen gate, like the click of divine architecture settling into its foundation. No one around you reacts. The soldiers still pace, their boots clinking against blood-slick stone. The crowd murmurs, uncertain, impatient, drifting toward cruelty, like sheep lean toward shade. But the sky is aware. The very shape of it has changed. A line has been drawn. It doesn't stretch across the dirt, or the city, or even the realm of man. It stretches through spirit, through history. A boundary now stands, thin as breath, sharp as promise. And at its edge, Michael moves. Not far, just a step, but it's enough. The dust at his feet stirs in a spiral, though no wind exists here. His sword lowers, not in defeat, but in declaration. He's not here to strike, not yet. He is here to hold, to guard, to enforce, because the command has been given. Not in words spoken to the sky, not in trumpet calls, not even in thunder, but in that cry, the one the world mistook for agony. It wasn't a plea, it was an order. Hold the line. Guard what is mine. And it reached them. Michael and Uriel heard it not with ears, but with being. The way mountains hear the shift of the stars. The way oceans feel the mood of the moon. They were waiting for this. Not for permission to act, but instruction to remain. And now they have it. Michael turns slightly, his presence widening like a gate drawn across an unseen battlefield. His flame grows hotter, but he doesn't burn. His wings don't unfurl. They pulse, once. Like lungs inhaling a truth that will not be reversed. Uriel's light deepens. Not brighter, heavier. like a truth being lowered onto the earth. They are stationed now, fixed. Sentinels holding ground, not in defense, but in certainty. The transaction is in progress. The greatest exchange ever attempted, the clean for the cursed, the blameless for the damned, is unfolding in blood and silence. And the line must be held. No spirit may cross. No lie may slip in. No hand may tamper. You feel the boundary now. You're on one side. They're on the other. And the man between? He is the bridge. The sky has quieted. Not because peace has arrived, but because purpose has. The tension hasn't left. It has solidified, become structure. Above you, the heavens are no longer merely watching. They are enforcing, because the word was spoken. The veil is ready. The ground is listening. And the line will not break. You don't hear it with your ears. Not at first. It comes like a tremor through your ribs, like something you drank hours ago is waking up inside you, trying to claw its way out. Then, slowly, it sharpens. Low at first. A pulling, tearing noise. But it's not fabric. No fabric makes that sound. It sounds like something sacred being undone. Like reality breaking open at the seam. The priests in the temple freeze. One of them drops a bowl. It shatters, but no one moves to pick it up. Their faces are turned upward, toward the Holy of Holies. The place no one enters. The place only one man steps into, once a year, after washing his body and emptying his soul. But today, the curtain moves. And then it rips, top to bottom. From the ceiling down, the thick veil tears apart. Not gently, not like cloth giving way to time, but violently, like it has been commanded. Like something with hands not made of flesh took hold of it and decided, now. And the sound, it doesn't echo. It resonates. It shakes through marrow. It rolls across the walls of the temple, down the city's alleys, into homes and tombs and places where no one is looking. It's not sound. It's announcement. Something is being declared, even if no one can understand the words. Behind the curtain, the room is now visible. The golden ark, the mercy seat, the space where only one pair of human feet were allowed to tread. And now it stands exposed. Not violated, opened. The air behind the veil glows, but not with fire, with something cleaner, sharper. You don't see it, not with your eyes, but your spirit stirs like it's been caught in a wind from before time, like it's hearing the sound of Eden's gate unlocking in reverse. On the hill, the man has just breathed his last, head lowered, blood stilled, but his voice still echoes, not in words, but in consequences. And this is one of them. The separation between man and God. The thick cloth, the barrier, the warning. It is undone, and not stitched apart with human hands, not loosened by age. It is ripped, like skin, like covenant, because the veil was never just fabric. It was agreement. It was distance. It was the weight of what we could not touch. And now it's been torn wide open, like a chest cut, to expose a heart that refuses to stop beating. Somewhere, a priest begins to weep, not sobbing, not ashamed, just undone, like he's looking at something he thought he wanted his whole life, but never dreamed he'd actually see. And now he sees it. The veil was supposed to protect them, but it wasn't needed anymore, because something had shifted. Something in blood, something in silence, something in the cry that shattered the sky and whispered to angels. You feel it, standing far away, your feet covered in dust, your face damp with the dark wind that doesn't carry scent. The world has changed, not turned, not broken, rewritten. And the sound of that curtain tearing still hangs in the air, not above you, inside you, because something sacred just opened its doors, and it's not planning to close them again. He could end it. Right now, with a flick of his wrist, the sword would burn brighter than any star, and every demon circling the edges of this moment would vanish in a breath. The sky would peel open like a scroll, and justice would roar down from its wound. But he doesn't move. Michael does not unsheath his sword, because he doesn't need to. This isn't the kind of war that ends with bodies. This isn't blood on a battlefield or flame in a city. This is something deeper, older. A moment in the marrow of existence where law and mercy are colliding, and Michael's job is not to fight it. It's to guard it. He stands like a pillar between realms. Not stone, not flame, just pure will. He doesn't blink anymore. His gaze is fixed on a boundary that no human sees but every spirit fears. The border between judgment and redemption, between accusation and atonement. The gap. He is standing in the gap, and no one crosses. Not unless he allows it. There are things watching from the other side. Things with teeth made of lies and eyes stitched from regret. They remember him. From Eden, from Egypt, from Babylon, from battles in places never written about. They remember what his blade can do, and they don't test him now, because even in stillness, he's a threat. Not because he's angry, but because he's obeying. His obedience terrifies them more than his wrath ever could, because wrath is reaction, but obedience means this silence is on purpose. This waiting is by design. That the restraint wrapped around his body is not weakness. It's prophecy in armor. One demon gets close. Just one. You can't see it. Not with eyes, but you feel it, like a gust of rot. A thought not your own that brushes against your neck and makes your knees want to give out. A whisper slithers between dimensions, hungry for access, for confusion, for loopholes. Michael doesn't speak. He just lifts his eyes a fraction of an inch, and the thing is gone. Not torn, not screamed away. Erased. Like it was never born. Because Michael does not argue with darkness. He doesn't debate what has already been defeated. His authority isn't in volume. It's in position. And he is exactly where heaven told him to be. His sword remains sheathed at his side, humming softly, as if even the blade knows it doesn't need to move to matter. The names etched along its length don't glow. They thrum. They echo through the spirit realm, like a heartbeat too big for this world. The blood beneath the cross keeps pooling. The man in the middle is still. The sky is holding its breath, but Michael is not waiting. He is guarding. He is preserving the corridor where eternity is bleeding into time, and nothing, not confusion, not fear, not accusation, gets past him. Because this isn't a battlefield. This is a transaction. And his blade isn't currency. It's consequence. He remains still, because the line is drawn, and Michael does not cross it. He keeps others from doing the same. The sky has stopped whispering. The shadows hold still. Everything on the hill has fallen into a breathless hush, like creation itself is pausing mid-sentence, waiting to see what word comes next. But Uriel already knows the word. He's known it since before the stars were pinned in place, since before language. And still, he lowers his head. Just once. A slight motion, barely perceptible. But in the realm of angels, even stillness speaks. Even silence shouts. Uriel does not bow to men, not to kings, not to warriors. His posture is reserved for truth alone, for moments when the architecture of time bends under the weight of obedience. And now, here, on this bloody hill, in the middle of a cursed afternoon, the archangel of wisdom bows, not to the agony, not to the nails, not to the blood dripping in steady rhythm, but to the plan that was whispered before Eden, the one folded into the scroll, sealed with 7 seals, the one etched into every prophecy, hidden in every shadow, woven through every page of scripture like a thread of flame waiting to be pulled. Uriel's eyes are still lit, white-hot, focused. But for the first time since he appeared above Golgotha, they soften, not dimming, but deepening. Like fire, remembering what it was made to burn for. He watches Jesus, not as a soldier watches a general, not as a servant watches a master, but as a guardian watches the fulfillment of a promise older than time itself. And he bows, not in defeat, in reverence, because this is the moment, the hinge on which the eternal door swings open. The plan is unfolding, not loudly, but precisely. Every breath taken, every drop spilled, every word whispered from dry, broken lips, none of it wasted, none of it accidental. Uriel sees it all, the justice, the mercy, the paradox held together in a broken body nailed to two wooden beams, a holy collision between wrath and grace, between the law that condemns and the blood that pays. And so, he lowers his head, not in grief, though there is grief, not in sorrow, though even heaven mourns, but in alignment, because when light sees truth, it bows. And Uriel is light, not the kind that glows, the kind that reveals, the kind that peels back veils and shows the hidden thing underneath. He carries the mysteries of God, not as secrets, but as seeds, meant to be planted, grown, harvested in the right season. And now, the harvest has begun. Jesus exhales, not loudly, but completely. And Uriel knows that breath was more than pain leaving lungs. It was the sealing of covenant, the release of something eternal, a signal sent not through air, but through spirit. The angels around him, invisible to human sight, hold their positions, but they feel it, the shift, the tremor in the structure of things, the veil in the temple already beginning to ripple, the keys to death warming in the silence beneath the earth. And Uriel watches it all with burning eyes, then bows, just once, because even an archangel knows there is no higher honor than witnessing redemption, and no deeper obedience than honoring the plan that saves the world by suffering for it. The first crack is quiet, not loud, not dramatic, just a faint pop in the dirt, like something old is exhaling beneath the weight of time. No one notices at first. Not the priests pacing the temple floor, not the guards still wiping blood from their spears, not the crowd thinning under a sky that forgot how to shine. But the earth does. Outside the city, where the tombs sit heavy in the rock, those ancient holes carved into hillsides, sealed with stone and silence, something shifts. A second crack follows, then another. Dust slips like breath from between stones, and the ground begins to tremble in ways too soft for the eye, too deep for the ear. And yet, it's happening. Something is walking through death before death has even finished its sentence. This isn't decay. This isn't the slow rot of flesh giving up its form. This is the opposite. Not breaking down, rising up. Not rot, return, movement from within the stillness, a pulse in the silence of stone. In one tomb, a jawbone rattles. In another, fingers twitch in the dark, as if waking from a dream no soul was supposed to survive. The veil in the temple has already torn. The line between the holy and the human split like a wound finally opened. But here, just beyond the city walls, another boundary is cracking. The one between the living and the dead. It's not loud yet, but it's coming. The air begins to feel charged, not with storm, with memory, like something forgotten is remembering its name. Like bones buried beneath layers of grief and time are hearing a call they were told would never come. You can't hear the voice, but they can. And it's not shouting, it's summoning. A whisper stronger than thunder, a presence more commanding than the laws that sealed them in. Because the one dying on the cross isn't just giving up life. He's stepping into death like a king walks into a foreign country. Not to visit, to conquer. And death knows it. You can feel it in the way the wind won't settle. The way animals freeze for no reason. The way children wake from sleep with tears on their cheeks and no memory of why. Something is stirring beneath the dust of centuries, and no one taught it how to stay still anymore. Michael feels it. Uriel feels it. But neither speaks. Because what's happening now was written before they were ever sent to guard it. This is not reaction. It's revelation, and it's just beginning. A stone outside the city falls forward, though no hand touched it. Inside, fingers curl, eyes open, no breath yet, no heartbeat, but readiness, like a door unlocked, like permission granted. And the demons in the air, they feel it too. They start pulling back, deeper into shadow, unsure where to hide, because they recognize what's happening. Not the act, but the authority behind it. The kind of authority that doesn't argue with death. It simply walks in and speaks. And when it speaks, graves crack. Not from pressure, from prophecy. The dead are beginning to stir. Not all. Not yet, but enough to let the world know. This ending was always going to be the beginning. The last breath leaves his lungs like a thread cut clean. No scream, no roar, just an exhale that shouldn't matter, and yet it does. The kind that doesn't carry air, but weight. Not a collapse, but a release. The kind of breath that sounds like something finished what it came to do. His head lowers. His body slackens, and for one heartbeat, the world forgets how to move. Then, silence. But not the silence of death, the silence of entry, because he does not fall. He descends, and it begins the way all sacred things begin, not with spectacle, but stillness, the kind of stillness that turns the atmosphere into glass, that makes the ground hold its breath and the veil inside the temple remember why it tore. That makes angels tighten their stance and demons flinch in corners they once ruled. The king has left the visible world, and now he's stepping into what waits beneath. He is not carried, not dragged, not pushed. He enters, not as prisoner, as commander. He slips between realms with the authority of someone who designed them. He does not knock. He doesn't need to. Doors don't open for him. They remember they were never meant to be shut. And below, the realm of the dead begins to react. Not scream, not cry, just shift. Because they know. Everything beneath the surface feels it. Sheol, the place of shadows and stillness, of waiting and wailing. It stirs. Not because it wants to, but because it has no choice. Something foreign has entered, not unfamiliar, just unwelcomed. The righteous feel it first. The ones tucked in peace, waiting under promises too old for memory. Abraham, Moses, David, prophets, poets, saints who closed their eyes in faith, not knowing when morning would come. Their eyes open now, not to light, to him. He has not spoken, but his presence is speaking for him. Meanwhile, the wicked feel it differently. Those chained in torment, twisted in their choices, lost to rot and regret, they shiver. The darkness that once comforted them recoils. They don't see him, but they feel the authority approach, and it burns. He is walking through death. Not cautiously, not timidly, not like someone who was conquered. He walks like someone claiming what was his from the beginning. And above him, on the hill, Michael does not move. Uriel's fire flickers, steady and sharp. Neither follow yet, but they feel the shift, feel the silence become substance, feel heaven tighten around the thread being pulled from earth to underworld. Time doesn't stop. but it folds. Because this isn't just death. This is invasion. And Jesus is not entering Sheol to mourn. He's entering to rewrite it. The descent begins without trumpet or shout, without war cry or thunder. Just the sound of the king stepping into the grave, with the keys not yet in hand, but the right to claim them already carved into his blood. The sky doesn't weep. It watches, because something deeper than death has begun, and death is no longer in charge. It starts beneath your souls, not a quake, not a tremble, but a shift, a subtle, bone-deep slide, like the ground beneath the world has changed its mind about holding everything together, like it just remembered something it had tried to forget. The dirt loosens, the dust stirs without wind, and then you feel it. A slow, massive exhale from somewhere far beneath your feet. Not air, not breath, but something more ancient, like a lung you never knew the earth had, has finally released a sigh it's been holding since Eden. You stumble slightly, unsure why. There's no wind, no thunder, just a feeling, like gravity has realigned around something you can't see. Because deep below, deeper than the roots of mountains, deeper than the weight of oceans, the gates of the dead creak open, not with violence, with reverence, as if they know who's coming. Sheol, the realm of the departed, the shadowed holding of both peace and punishment, begins to shift, not outward, inward, like it's bracing, like it's standing at attention. The gates aren't metal, they're not stone, they're older than both. They're made of covenant, woven from consequence. And now, they move. They don't crash open like a fortress under siege. They yield, because this is not a rescue mission. This is reclamation. Jesus descends, not surrounded by flame, not trailed by legions, but alone, and yet not. Because the silence moves with him like a crown. He's not dragging chains. He's carrying scars. The marks still fresh from wood and thorn and nail. And yet, he walks with the kind of authority that makes eternity pause. The gates do not resist. They groan. A long, aching sound that makes the sky above wince and the ground below lean in. It's not pain. It's recognition. Like a prisoner hearing the footsteps of the warden come to unlock a cell. The dead feel it. The righteous stir. Those who died in hope, who fell asleep with promises unfulfilled. Suddenly, they sit up. They blink. They whisper names they haven't spoken in ages. Not because they heard the sound, but because they felt the meaning. The king is coming. And the wicked, they tremble. Not at the sound of the gates, at the stillness beyond them. Because the one who enters is not pleading, not negotiating. He is crossing a threshold that has held every human life since the first breath was cursed by sin. And for the first time since the beginning, death is no longer the end. The veil tore above. The grave opens below. And between them, footsteps echo that shouldn't be heard here. Footsteps that walk not with fear but with purpose, not to explore, but to claim. Behind him, the echo follows. Michael watching, Uriel burning. But even they stay at the edge for now, because only one holds the right to walk these halls and leave with what was lost. The gates of the dead creak wider, not for defeat, for fulfillment. The air around you pulses again, and you know without knowing. Something ancient just woke up, and it's not the dead, it's the promise. In the deep places, far beneath even the roots of graves, there are things that have no name anymore. Once, they had shapes that the heavens knew, voices that resonated across stars. They sang once, not like men sing, but like creation does when it first learns it exists. But they haven't sung in a long time, not since they fell, not since judgment chained them in shadow. Now, they sleep, or something like sleep, more like waiting, not dreaming, not dead, just suspended, coiled in the silence of consequence, wrapped in the chains of what they chose and could not undo. But tonight, the silence moves. No chain rattles, no scream, no cry, just a pause, as if time itself forgets how to proceed, because something is coming. No, he has arrived, and they feel him, not like footsteps, like memory, old, holy memory, carved into their bones before their rebellion stripped them of beauty, before their pride cast them down into these hollow, echoing depths, before they learned what it meant to be exiled from radiance. They do not speak, they remember, and remembering is worse, because the presence that steps into the underworld now is the same they once surrounded in fire and song. They bore his name in glory once. They stood in his courts. They danced in the beginnings of galaxies. Now, they cannot even look up, because what walks above them is the one who holds the breath of stars and the silence of judgment, the one they betrayed, the one they tried to outshine. And now, his footsteps roll across the outer gates of death, not as visitor, but as owner. Their chains tighten, not because he pulls them, because the light in his scars reminds them why they were bound. They don't groan. They don't beg. They wouldn't dare. Not here. Not now. The king is not here to confront them. He doesn't need to. His descent alone is confrontation enough. He does not need to speak their names. The sound of his arrival is already rewriting the atmosphere. One of them shifts, barely. A movement no human could perceive. Not defiance. Recognition. And the others feel it too. They stir, not in rebellion, but in memory. Because though they have forgotten what mercy feels like, they have never forgotten him. He passes over their prison like a wind made of truth. No fire, no sword, just presence. And they feel the divide between them and him has never been wider. Not because he is farther, but because he has become something they can never be again. Flesh wrapped in obedience. Blood carrying innocence. A king wounded by sacrifice, not sin. That's what terrifies them most. Not his light, his humility, because power they understand. But this choosing to descend, to bleed, to bear, this is something higher than any glory they ever knew. And so, they stay still, chains silent, eyes closed. He moves past them. He doesn't stop, because this is not their hour. It is his. And the fallen watchers, those ancient exiles of heaven, can do nothing but tremble in their stillness, remembering the sound of his footsteps, and knowing the gates of death are already open behind him. He doesn't open it like a book. He unfolds it, like time. The scroll appears in Uriel's hands without motion, as if it had always been there, waiting for this exact breath in history to show itself. It isn't made of parchment. It isn't bound in leather or sealed with wax. It's light, pure and layered, wrapped around itself like flame folded into flame. And when his fingers, glowing like the center of the sun, touch its edge, the darkness flinches. Not just the shadows nearby, all of it. The darkness that clings to the underworld, like a second skin. The thick, choking gloom that thinks it has dominion here. The silence that pretends it is power. It recoils. Because Uriel doesn't just carry light. He carries memory. The scroll of light is older than death, older than the fall. It was spoken into being when the foundations were still wet with glory. It contains no ink, no script, only truth. Layer upon layer of eternal sequence. Revelation that never needed to be spoken because it always was. And now, here, in the underworld where no flame is supposed to burn, Uriel begins to unfold it. He doesn't speak. He doesn't need to. The scroll speaks for itself. Each turn reveals not words, but waves. Light that moves like thought. Images that aren't seen with eyes, but absorbed through spirit. The kind of revelation that doesn't teach, it uncovers. Like a veil being pulled off the bones of reality. And Sheol groans. The realm of the dead has no laws to silence him. No voice to shout him back into hiding. Because Uriel does not ask permission to reveal. He simply does. And the weight of that unveiling shakes things that have slept since the beginning. The light isn't harsh. It doesn't scorch. It remembers. Every soul in the place of waiting begins to feel it. Like a warmth beneath the ribs. Like a name they forgot they had, whispered again in the language of origin. Prophets who died before the promise, saints who faded before the Messiah, all sit up. Their spirits lean forward. Because what Uriel reveals is not new. It's fulfillment. Every prophecy they spoke, every vision they saw in fragments, every dream they wept through in the night, it's here. Layered into the scroll like a seed finally sprouting into flame. Uriel doesn't explain it. He doesn't have to. The light wraps around them, through them, and suddenly they understand. The man on the cross, the blood in the dust, the cry into the sky. It wasn't the end. It was the unlocking. The darkness tries to resist, but it can't hold its shape. Around the scroll, shadows ripple like oil on fire, not fleeing, fading. Because darkness doesn't win by power. It wins by confusion. And revelation is its end. Uriel continues to unfold. More light, more memory, more truth too heavy for deception to survive. The scroll is almost fully open now. Its last fold glows with something fierce and sacred. Like the heartbeat of heaven made visible, like the voice of the Father laid bare for all dimensions to hear. Uriel's face doesn't change, but something in his posture shifts, because the story is being seen, the truth is being known, and the moment he finishes unfolding that last edge, nothing in hell, death, or history will be able to pretend it didn't happen. The line is drawn, not in blood, not in stone, but in authority. It runs across the mouth of the underworld like an invisible blade, humming with a sound too deep for human ears and too old for rebellion to challenge. On one side, the gates of death, wide and trembling. On the other, the path already taken by the king, his presence echoing through chambers no light has touched in generations. And on that line, unmoving, stands Michael. He is not pacing, he is not glaring. His sword is still sheathed, but the air around him quivers, the kind of tension you feel in a courtroom the moment before a verdict is read, the kind of silence that only exists when the judge is present and the sentence is inevitable. He is not here to battle. He is here to enforce. Because this is not war. This is legal ground. The king is not asking for the keys. He is not negotiating terms. He is not arguing theology with the spirits who tremble in the depths. He is claiming what is already his. And Michael's job is to make sure nothing interferes. He stands tall, armor gleaming with a light not reflected but generated. It pulses, not with rage, but with restraint. Every joint, every plate, every link in the celestial chainmail radiates tension, held in perfect obedience. He is ready, but not rushing. Because victory is not in motion. It is in position. No demon dares approach him. Not because they fear pain, but because they fear consequence. He is not the threat of violence. He is the embodiment of divine order. The manifestation of justice that cannot be ignored. You feel it standing near him. The pressure of unyielding will. He is not protecting the king. He is protecting the process. The exchange is in motion now. The Lamb has descended. The scroll has been unfolded. The gates have opened, not to debate, but to submit. And Michael stands at the threshold like a seal, marking the moment as irreversible. A spirit attempts to creep near. Small, slithering, hoping to whisper doubt into the process. Michael turns his head a single degree. That's all. And the thing is gone. Not destroyed, removed, not as punishment, as enforcement. Because when heaven gives a command, Michael becomes its edge. There is no flair to his presence, no announcement. He does not roar. He does not blaze. He exists like gravity, unquestionable and immediate. You don't notice him because he draws attention. You notice him because nothing disobeys near him. The underworld presses back. It does not resist. It recoils. Because something is happening, it cannot stop. A line is being crossed, not by armies, by one man, scarred, silent, sovereign, who walks through death like a corridor he built with his own blood. Michael guards that corridor. He doesn't follow. He holds the line. The command was simple. Hold the line. Guard what is mine. And Michael will not let even a thought pass through that has not been permitted. Because this moment is not just sacred. It is lawful. And heaven will see it completed. At the threshold, Michael stands, not waiting for war, but confirming victory. Not as a warrior, as a witness. Not for permission, for fulfillment. They don't clatter into his palm. There's no jingle of iron, no ancient lock snapping open, no angel shouting permission from some heavenly court. The moment simply arrives, and with it, the keys. They were never hidden. They were waiting, and now they appear. Not forged, not fetched, not handed over like spoils of war. They manifest, real and radiant. Not metal, not gold, but something deeper, something alive. Authority made physical. A truth shaped like a weapon. In his hand, they hum, not with sound, with finality. The king doesn't reach for them. He doesn't bend to pick them up. He doesn't wrestle them away from some throne of darkness. They appear, called, summoned, like loyal servants returning to their rightful owner, because they were always his, before the cross, before the nails, before the borrowed tomb, even before Eden knew shame or Adam knew breath. The keys had a name carved into them, and it wasn't death's. It was his. This is not a robbery. It's a return. You watch from the edge of shadow as his fingers close around them. The realm of the dead goes silent, not in awe, in memory, because even the gates here remember who spoke their limits into being. He lifts the keys, not like a trophy, like a sentence fulfilled, and the air shifts again. The walls of Sheol, thick with centuries of groaning, of waiting, of rot, begin to loosen. Cracks spread along their roots, the kind not caused by pressure, but by truth. Because a door locked unjustly doesn't need to be broken. It just needs to be reminded it was never allowed to stay shut. Michael feels it. A ripple of finality moves through his armor, not sharp, but warm, like justice exhaling. Uriel lowers his hands, the scroll of light now fully open behind him. The mysteries have been released, the unveiling complete. Nothing left to hide, no shadows left to pretend. The gates of captivity know it too. They groan, not in resistance, in resignation. Because when he takes the keys, it's not the beginning of escape. It's the end of permission. Death no longer owns its house. And the prisoners once kept here in the waiting, souls wrapped in prophecy, in promise, in unfinished psalms, begin to rise. Not climb, rise. Pulled upward by something older than gravity. They don't even look surprised, because somewhere deep in them, they always knew he would come. And now he stands at the center of the underworld, not as a ghost, not as a spirit, but as a king, with keys that pulse like thunder, wrapped in grace. He turns once, just once, and every throne of darkness, Every whisper of accusation, every mocking spirit in every hollow hallway falls silent, because they see what he holds. And they remember, these keys were never stolen. They were his from the beginning. The cross didn't earn them, it revealed them. He just came to collect. It doesn't start with thunder. It starts with breath. A single inhalation from the king, quiet but weighty, like eternity, drawing air into lungs that had every right to stay still. And when he exhales, chains snap, not like iron under pressure, like thread that forgot why it was strong. The sound doesn't boom through Sheol like an explosion. It cracks softly, over and over, like twigs giving way underfoot in a forest that no longer wants to hide. One by one, links that have held for centuries surrender. Not because they're forced, but because they've just been reminded. They were never supposed to last this long. The captives blink. Eyes not used in lifetimes flicker open to light they don't recognize, but somehow remember. Their limbs, stiff with the weight of waiting, begin to stir, not with panic, with purpose. There's no scrambling, no confusion, just motion, slow, sacred, certain, because they know who stands among them, and they know what he's just done. The air is filled with a kind of hush that feels alive, not silence from absence, but silence from awe. Chains, once etched with curses and covenants of judgment, hang useless around ankles and wrists. They slide off shoulders like garments that never fit. Moses stands. David blinks away tears. Ruth exhales, hand over her heart, as if the ache that's lived in her chest for generations has finally dissolved. Isaiah smiles. Not wide, just enough. They all feel it. Not just the freedom, the fulfillment. The king hasn't spoken, but he doesn't have to. His presence is a voice. His movement is a sentence. His breath is command. What was bound is now released. What was buried is now rising. And still, the chains keep breaking. Not violently, cleanly, like they were never meant to hold holiness in the first place. Some spirits drop to their knees, not because they're afraid, but because they're remembering. Every scroll, every psalm, every whisper of promise passed down through exile, through silence, through pain. It's true. He came. He descended. He holds the keys, and he is walking through the center of their prison like it was never meant to be a home. Behind him, Michael watches, not with pity, with precision. He's not guarding captives. He's guarding a procession, because this isn't an escape. It's a coronation. And Uriel, scroll now folded, watches the light from the chain's last fragments as they dissolve into the dust. His eyes glow not with heat, but with memory. The kind of knowing that stretches back before creation, that can see the exact moment each of these souls were marked for this hour. The enemy does not speak. He cannot, because the rules are being rewritten in front of him, not with fire, but with freedom. And freedom does not ask permission. The captives begin to move forward, not rushing, but rising. There is no gate now, no guard, only a king holding keys, and a path that no longer leads deeper into shadow, but upward into light. Sheol is losing its hold, not because heaven forced it open, but because the Lamb walked in and reminded it, none of this was ever yours. It doesn't come like thunder. It doesn't tear through the sky with volume or light. It doesn't shake the ground beneath your feet or make demons scatter in a storm of screams. When he speaks, it sounds like nothing at all. But your bones remember it. They ring. They hum. Like tuning forks struck by eternity. The sentence, only a few words, is not heard by ears. It slides beneath language, slips past logic, and goes straight into the deepest place in you. The place where breath was first whispered into dust, where you were first named, where matter became meaning, He speaks, and the stars blink. Somewhere far above, beyond the sky and the veil, and the atmosphere still bruised from his final breath, galaxies pause. Not because they're commanded to, but because they want to. Because they recognize the voice that first flung them into motion, and they listen. The darkness in Sheol freezes, not in fear, in surrender, because the sentence he speaks is not a battle cry. It's not a threat. It's not even a shout of triumph. It is truth, spoken aloud, and truth, when it leaves the lips of its maker, doesn't echo. It roots. The captives who have just been released turn toward him. They can't say why. They just do. Because even now, even free, their freedom feels drawn toward the one who just unlocked it with his very presence. And now, with one sentence, quiet as breath, but weightier than history, he speaks something into the atmosphere that cannot be reversed. You don't understand the words. You don't need to, because your marrow does. Your spirit does. It bows in your chest like wheat under sudden rain, not in shame, in awe. Because this isn't a declaration made for volume. This is the kind of speech that builds mountains, that opens tombs, that unhooks death from its throne and leaves it wondering why it ever thought it ruled anything. Michael hears it. He doesn't react. He doesn't need to. Because this was the moment he was waiting for. Not the tearing of the veil. Not the taking of the keys. This, the voice. Because only one being in all of existence can speak like this. Not as one in power, but as the source of it. Michael's grip tightens. Not in tension, but in reverence. His sword stays sheathed, his gaze fixed. Uriel lowers his eyes again. Not because of the volume, because of the weight. He's seen prophecies. He's delivered mysteries. He's stood at the intersection of divine thought and human time. But even he knows this sentence is not prophecy fulfilled. It's reality corrected. The sentence is still ringing, not outward, inward, into the bones of creation, into the laws that once gave death its illusion of permanence, and into every realm that ever dared believe heaven would not follow through. The veil tore, the temple shook, the graves opened. But this is different. This is final. The stars heard him, and they held still, not in fear, in worship, because the one who spoke them into fire just spoke again. And even the galaxies remembered who they answer to. The flame in Uriel's chest doesn't flicker, it expands. Not like fire reaching for oxygen, like memory remembering its purpose. He lifts his hand, just one, and touches the air in front of him. But it's not air anymore. It's something denser, thicker. A fold in the fabric that divides now from everything else. Past from future, seen from prepared, time, and when Uriel touches it, it bends. Not violently, not with a rip or a scream. It bends like a knee, like something eternal acknowledging something holy. Because this moment, this exact breath between death and resurrection, is too heavy for time to carry in a straight line. It needs to echo. Uriel doesn't speak. His eyes burn white, the kind of light that doesn't blind but reveals, the kind of light that walks into a tomb centuries from now and turns death into doctrine, that burns through scrolls and sermons in the soul of a man yet unborn. He touches the moment, and the future flinches. On a road not yet built, a man not yet forgiven will fall. His eyes, once sharp with pride, fury, certainty, will go dark, not from punishment, from revelation. And when the light comes, it won't be sunlight. It will be memory. This memory, this flame, this moment wrapped in scar and silence and sovereignty. Uriel's fire, older than language, curls through the folds of time like a thread of lightning searching for dry ground, not to burn it, to seed it. A strike not of destruction, but of preparation. The man will be called Saul, then Paul. He will fall, not because he's hunted, but because he's known. And the light that strikes him blind will carry echoes of this exact second in the underworld, this holy breath between chains breaking and resurrection rising. The power that floods him will not be new. It will be ancient, kindled here. Now, Uriel's flame stretches farther, through centuries of silence and centuries of songs, through hidden cellars where saints will whisper hope under threat of lions, through prison walls where apostles will sing with shackled feet, through dusty deserts where prophets haven't even been born yet. And it leaves something behind in each of them, a spark, a flicker, a pulse of knowing. Because this isn't just the story of what happened. It's the ignition of what will. The flame doesn't stop. It touches a wooden desk where a trembling hand will write words about grace that once nailed a man to a cross. It touches a trembling heart in a pew centuries later, breaking under the weight of a name they were taught to ignore. It touches ink on parchment, song in cellars, tears in prison cells. And all of it traces back here, to Uriel, to this second, to this fire that does not consume, but commissions. Time doesn't resist it. It opens. Because even time understands when it's being asked to carry something divine. Uriel withdraws his hand. The air calms. But the bend remains. In a future that has not yet happened, a man will rise from blindness with new sight, and he won't understand why he can't stop weeping. But Uriel will know, because his flame touched time itself, and the fire has never stopped moving. He doesn't shout. He doesn't need to. Michael's presence has never been about noise. His voice was never forged for conversation. It was made for moments like this, when history needs to be sealed, and heaven is waiting for a signal the earth won't recognize. He doesn't speak. He declares. One movement. That's all it takes. His hand, wrapped in radiance, lifts the sword. Not fast, not violent. Slowly, deliberately, like a judge placing the final mark on a verdict already decided. The blade doesn't gleam. It glows. Quietly. Not from sunlight or heat, but from the names carved into it. Names not in any language spoken by flesh. Names older than war, deeper than blood. Names that hold authority. You don't know what they say, but your bones do. Michael doesn't raise the sword to strike. He isn't here for combat. He isn't here to punish. He's here to finalize, to confirm what the king has done, to seal the transaction. Every realm pauses. Sheol, the vast hollow, where death has ruled like a king pretending to be permanent, trembles, but not in resistance, in recognition, because this gesture means it's over. The moment the sword lifts, the terms are locked. Sin has been paid for. Captives are released. The gates have no say. The demons do not speak. They don't even twitch. Because when Michael's blade rises, it's not a threat. It's a signature. Uriel watches, eyes still lit with the residue of revelation. The scroll he unfolded, now fully read, fully seen, glows behind him, like the after-image of prophecy made manifest. He bows slightly, not to Michael, but to what the act means. The fulfillment, the closing of an era. And you, standing where the veil between worlds has thinned to the width of a breath, feel it in your spine. Something ancient just locked into place. Like a door you never knew was open, has just been shut, with you on the side of freedom. Michael's sword hovers at the peak of its arc. Not high, not low, just exactly where it needs to be. Light pours off it, not blinding, but absolute. It doesn't burn. It certifies. This isn't a moment of war. It's a moment of transfer, of title, of access. Everything humanity lost in the garden. Dominion, identity, presence, has just been walked back across the boundary line of death by a king who refused to stay in heaven and let it end that way. And Michael? He bears witness, not as a soldier, as a witness to covenant, because what Jesus did, in silence, in blood, in obedience, now echoes with divine permanence. The blade lowers by a fraction, and that's enough. It's done. No decree follows. No wind. Just completion. You feel it. In your chest. In the marrow of your past. Like something tethered to shame. Just let go. Because when Michael lifts the sword, heaven doesn't shout. It signs. And hell loses the right to speak. It didn't shatter. It turned. From the inside out. Hell did not scream. It exhaled. A long, low groan that rippled through the underworld, like the bow of a ship cracking through old, still water. It wasn't destruction. It was reversal. Something in the bones of the realm shifted, uncoiled, remembered what it was before rebellion wrote its shape in flame. Because the king wasn't leaving empty-handed. He wasn't tearing through walls or dragging captives out by force. He wasn't breaking chains anymore. They were already ash. He wasn't issuing commands. He'd already spoken. Now, he was moving. And the place that had once been a prison was shifting around him, not resisting. Becoming. It was never meant to be a throne for torment. Not originally. It was meant as a boundary, a temporary place, a hollow. And now, in his presence, it remembers. It becomes a womb. Not soft, not safe, but purposeful, preparing to release, not death, but life, not punishment, but promise. The captives. No, not captives anymore. Stand taller. Their bodies don't change, but something in them does. They are no longer weighed down by delay. They're lifted by destiny. You can see it in the way they look at him. Not like survivors clinging to their rescuer, like sons and daughters following a father home. And he leads them, not with a gesture, with gravity, like everything that once sank is now rising. Michael turns, just slightly. The sword still raised. He doesn't move to join, because he doesn't need to. The line is held. The gates, wide open now, are no longer barriers. They are beginnings. And he guards the passage not to protect but to witness. Uriel's flame dims, but not with exhaustion, with satisfaction. The scroll is sealed. The echo is released. And what was hidden is now unveiled, forever. The fire in him doesn't burn outward now. It burns forward, into the future, into the hearts that will one day feel this moment without knowing its name. And Sheol? Sheol shifts again. You'd think it would crumble, collapse in on itself, but it doesn't, because it wasn't conquered like an enemy. It was transformed, like clay remembering the hands that shaped it. The sorrow soaked into its walls begins to lighten, not erase, redeem. The path upward opens, not a stairway, not a tunnel, just a way. It wasn't there before, but now it is, because where the king walks, boundaries bend. Where he breathes, barriers unravel. And where he carries those who were bound, reality opens to make room. The dead walk behind him, not like ghosts, like people, whole, known, waited for. The ones who died believing he would come, and the ones who never dreamed it would be like this. They follow him not in a line, but in a procession, a parade of reclaimed glory. Some weep, some laugh, some just walk, eyes wide, mouths open. All of them alive in a place once only meant for endings. And the womb of hell does what all wombs do when life inside is ready. It releases, without protest. without noise, just the quiet of a curse unmade. The king steps forward. The redeemed rise with him. And behind them, the underworld is not defeated. It is empty. It starts in your ribs. A vibration. Small, steady, impossible to ignore. Like your breath has caught on something invisible, something rising through you, not from fear, but from recognition. It isn't noise, it's resonance, and it's not coming from around you. It's coming from above. The stone above the tomb. It begins to hum, not rattle, not tremble. It hums like an old song being sung by something older than time. The kind of song mountains remember and galaxies pause to hear again. That hum begins to swell, not with pitch, but with weight. It presses on your chest, not to crush you, but to make room, like your heart is expanding to hold something you didn't know you lost. The tomb is still sealed, still heavy, still carved from rock, that should not move unless moved by men. But the hum says otherwise. There is no flash, no earthquake, no angel yet, just this upward pull, this invisible current flooding the air like the return of gravity after a long absence. Something is shifting beneath the stone, not in the earth, but in reality. And it's not just the tomb that feels it. The dirt, the roots, the wind, they all respond, like they've been holding a secret and it's finally about to be spoken out loud. Deep below, in the places where shadow has ruled for too long, the light is no longer staying still. It is not content to dwell in the depths. It rises, not in a beam, not in a flare, but in a tide. Slow, absolute, like a new sun being born beneath the ground. And with that tide, he moves. The king, the lamb, the lion who bled. He does not climb. He ascends, not with effort, but with ownership. His steps are not taken. They are followed. The redeemed rise behind him, wrapped in light not from torches, but from promise. They are not weightless. They are whole, restored not just to life, but to purpose. And above them, the stone begins to sweat. Moisture forms on its surface like the breath of the earth is warming it from the inside out. It doesn't crack. It doesn't split. It listens. It waits. It knows who is coming. And it will not dare to stay in place. The light climbs higher, through soil, through centuries, through every layer of silence humanity tried to bury its hope beneath. You feel it now, not just in your chest, but in your spine, in your skull, in the marrow of your memories. This light is not new. It's returning. And with it, the hum becomes more than sound. It becomes presence. The atmosphere bends. The realm between spirit and bone thins until you're not sure if you're standing or kneeling. Until you're not sure if this is happening now or if it always has been. Because what rises now has always been true. He is not coming back. He is coming out. And the world has no idea what to do with a savior who didn't escape death, but walked through it, holding keys, pulling light behind him like a crown. Above the tomb, time limps forward. 3 days. That's what the scrolls say. That's what the priests mark. That's what Rome counts with shaking hands and tired eyes. A sealed grave, a posted guard, a rumor held tight like a loaded weapon. But below, there is no time. Not the kind you measure with shadow and sun. Jesus is not waiting. He is moving. Not just through Sheol, not just through darkness, through the spaces between centuries, through the thin walls where generations press their hands against prophecy, trying to feel what's on the other side. And he is there. For each one, he walks through the memory of time like it owes him something. And it does. In Egypt, a slave cries out for freedom. The whip cracks, the blood spills, but deep in his spirit, he shivers, because somewhere, a voice like thunder clothed in mercy has whispered his name. In Babylon, a girl stares at the stars and weeps for a temple she's never seen, and in her sleep, her breath calms, because the future king has just stepped through her midnight and left peace behind. In Rome itself, years from the stone ceiling, a jail cell shakes with songs not yet sung. A man blinded on the road to Damascus will write letters that shape worlds. But even now, Jesus passes by him through his yet-to-be pain, his yet-to-be surrender, and the ink in Paul's bones begins to stir. He is not bound by the seal, not delayed by the stone. Time is folding around him like a cloak made to serve, because when he died, he didn't stop. He spread, like light through every locked hallway of history, like water through every dry place where hope was buried under silence. He does not rush. He does not rest. He collects souls, promises, every "How long, O Lord?" ever whispered into dust, every quiet prayer offered with no answer, every prophet who died with only half the picture, every dream that faded beneath empire and ash and sword. He gathers them, not just from Sheol, from everywhere. Time bends to let him through, because he's not just restoring people. He's restoring moments. Moments stolen by fear, moments twisted by failure, moments fractured by sin. He walks back through them like a surgeon through memory, not erasing, but redeeming. While above, the sun rises and sets, and soldiers shift at their post, and stone stays cold. Below, eternity burns. No clock can tick where he walks. No calendar can box him in, because this isn't a pause. It's a fulfillment. And when he is finished, when every echo has been gathered, every soul accounted for, every corner of time touched by resurrection's promise, he turns, not back, up, because the tomb is not a destination. It's a doorway. Rome doesn't know it yet. The guards still clutch their spears. The seal still gleams in the dawn. But below the surface of all their certainty, something unstoppable is rising. And it's not just a man. It's a multitude. A soul for every century. And a king who's not returning to time, but bringing time under his feet. He doesn't rush. Michael stands at the edge of the unseen, watching the final tremor ripple across creation. The dust of death still hangs in the air, the echoes of rebellion still curling in the corners of forgotten realms. But the atmosphere has changed, not louder, quieter, like everything is waiting to exhale. Then he moves. Slow, certain, final. His hand drops to the sword, still glowing with the light of the names carved into it. Names older than angels, names spoken in the throne room before time was syllables. He does not wipe it. He does not raise it. He does not point it at an enemy that no longer has permission to speak. He sheathes it. One motion, and all of heaven feels it. Not as a noise, but as a shift. Because when Michael puts his blade away, it is not defeat, it is declaration. The war isn't over, but this battle, finished. The scroll has been opened, the veil has been torn, the king has descended and risen with the keys. Now comes the silence, after thunder. Uriel watches with eyes still burning low, the scroll of light folded and sealed again, not because the mysteries are hidden, but because they've been revealed. His fire now rests in his chest like a coal waiting for its next breath of purpose. Neither angel speaks. They don't need to, because the order has been fulfilled. Not delayed, not denied, fulfilled. Every law satisfied, every enemy exposed. Every gate that once claimed to hold dominion has been opened and left behind like a shell no longer needed. Michael's sword clicks into place, and the sound of it small and simple, rings louder in the spirit than the crack of Sinai. You feel it, even here, even now, like something just clicked into alignment between what was and what must be. Heaven doesn't shout in this moment. It listens. Creation leans in, and the demons that still linger in the shadows begin to back away, not because they fear fire, but because they understand what a sheathed sword means in Michael's hands. It means the sentence has been read, the judgment sealed. The High King has claimed what was his. And now the angels no longer wait for battle. They wait for resurrection. Michael turns his gaze upward, not through clouds or sky, but through realms, through time. His eyes lock onto a tomb not yet opened by human hands, but already surrendered to divine authority. He sees what's coming, and he bows his head, not to the stone, not to the silence, but to the plan that cannot be stopped. Because the moment his blade disappeared into its sheath, the final piece was set, the dominion of death revoked, the ransom paid. The realm beneath their feet emptied not by siege, but by surrender to a savior who conquered without raising a single sword. Michael doesn't vanish. He stands, still, like a monument, like a seal, like a silent roar, carved into the foundation of the spirit world. And though the war will still stretch into chapters not yet written, this battle, it has been recorded, not in ink, in eternity. He does it slowly, not with hesitation, with reverence. The scroll hovers in the space between now and always, unfurled across eternity like a tapestry stitched from fire, light, and breath. It glows with the residue of everything it's just revealed. Names spoken before they were born, victories won before they were fought, a sacrifice older than sin, and a lamb slain before the foundation. Uriel stands before it, eyes still burning, not like stars, but like the memory of stars. The scroll doesn't flicker, it pulses, as though it knows it must close but doesn't want to, as though the secrets inside it, now echoed through realms both seen and not, are still humming, still rippling across timelines not yet fully written. He lifts his hand, and the scroll begins to fold, not like paper, like breath returning to lungs, like time bending back on itself. The flame around its edges doesn't dim. It tightens, compresses, drawing revelation inward, wrapping what was spoken in layers of divine patience. Because the mysteries are not gone, just sealed. For now, Uriel moves with precision, like someone who's done this before and will do it again. Each fold of the scroll doesn't erase what it holds. It protects it. Every creased edge becomes a lock. Every breath that leaves his lips becomes a seal. You can feel it in your bones, not concealment, conservation. The kind of preservation only heaven understands. The kind that waits, not with silence, but with certainty. He looks down once, and for a fleeting moment, it's as if the weight of every generation ahead of him passes across his face. The martyrs, the dreamers, the ones who will kneel in prisons, the ones who will speak his name in whisper and fire. They'll need what this scroll carries, but not yet, because what has just been revealed is enough, for now. Enough to shake kingdoms, enough to awaken the dead, enough to tear the veil and drain the underworld and make angels still their wings and demons forget how to speak. Uriel closes the final edge. The light condenses into something small enough to fit between two fingers, yet heavy enough to tilt galaxies. He presses it closed with one hand. There is no latch. There is no chain. Just light, obeying its author. The scroll seals, and the echo stops. But not really, because what has been revealed cannot be undone. The story has gone too far now. The veil is torn, the king has risen, the breath of heaven has touched earth and left residue in the spirit of man. Uriel turns. Behind him, The pathway back toward the tomb glows faintly. Ahead, the fire in his chest settles. Not gone, just waiting. Because even sealed, the scroll is alive. And one day, it will open again. When a trumpet sounds, when the sky rolls back, when what was hidden must once again be seen. But for now, the mysteries are folded. For now, the light is resting. For now, the scroll sleeps in the hand of the angel who carries eternity like a secret. Waiting for the moment the author says, "Open it again." You wake up, and the silence is thick. Not like sleep, not like morning, like absence. The darkness around you is the same as it was before, still, wide, cold. But something's different now. Something about it feels hollow, like a house after the furniture has been moved out. The weight it used to carry is gone. You sit up, slowly. Not because you're afraid, but because you're listening. And the darkness doesn't growl. It sighs, like it knows it's been emptied. You don't know how long it's been. The tomb still feels sealed. The air still carries the scent of stone and dust and grief. But there's no grief in your chest. Only breath. Full, unexpected, alive. Something left. Or someone. And suddenly, you know it. He's not here. He was. But he's not. Because he didn't die. He entered. There was no end. No full stop. No curtain drop. Only transition. Movement. The kind you feel in your soul before your mind catches up. The kind that bends time and unstitches endings from beginnings. The kind that doesn't announce itself with thunder, but with a heartbeat returning to flesh that was never meant to stay still. You stand, slowly, carefully, like the ground under your feet might recognize something you don't yet understand. And it does, because this isn't just a tomb. It's a threshold, not a prison, a door. He didn't die inside these walls. He passed through them, wore death like a cloak, let it cling for a moment, then shrugged it off like it never had claws in the first place, because it didn't. Not really. You move toward the stone, not because it's open, but because it's about to be. You can feel it. The weight of the world that once pressed down on this grave is gone. The gravity that kept the dead in place has been reversed. Not by violence, by authority. And now, the silence is sacred. The dark is no longer waiting to consume. It's just waiting to be pierced. And you remember something. Something he said. "No one takes my life from me. I lay it down, and I take it up again." And he did. He laid it down like a bridge. And now? Now he is taking it up like a crown. You walk the perimeter of the tomb, slowly. Nothing has moved. And yet everything has changed. You feel it in the stones, in the stale air that tastes like victory, in the stillness that hums with motion. He was here, but he was never meant to stay. This grave wasn't a failure. It was a gateway. And the one they thought they sealed behind stone, he walked through the walls of reality, left the lock swinging, and took the keys with him. So now, as you press your hand against the inside of the stone, you whisper, not in mourning, but in awe. He didn't die. He entered, and he's already gone.